at 7 p.m. Quick footnote, Homedale Field Hockey just won 1-0. Great job, girls. Just happened. Awesome. Awesome job. So we're going to call the meeting to order. The statement is hereby made that adequate notice of this meeting was given by posting written notice prominently on the bulletin board of the Office of the Board of Ed, the district's website, and sent to the 4 district schools. Mailing or hand delivery of notice to the designated newspapers, Asbury Park Press, Star Ledger, PLG, PSG, PSA, PTSO, SAB presidents, and student representatives to the board. Filing with the clerk of Homedale Township Police Headquarters and the public library. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Wall,
Here.
Mr. Damari,
Here.
Mr. Reddy,
Here.
Dr. Kalor is currently absent.
She is in Lisbon, Portugal, so she is not here.
Absent. Mrs. DeSilla,
Here.
Mr. Buckley,
Here.
Mr. Mann, Mr. Lebecci,
Here.
and Mrs. Lepresti is currently absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome members of the board that are here, the folks that are watching online, the union management who has Denise King, who's graced us with her presence yet again. Nice to see you, and the members of the public. Meetings of the board are open to the public, and all members of the community should feel free to participate. There will be one opportunity to the public to speak a little later on down in the meeting. That's item O. Any individual desiring to speak, please give your name, address, and the group, if any, that you're representing. Presentation should be as brief as possible, but no more than 3 minutes. There are certain matters that may be brought before the board that can't be immediately addressed in public. They may be referred to a board committee or their superintendent for consideration or resolution. And the board vests in the president or other presiding officer authority to terminate remarks if they're deemed in the best interest of those present to do so, which we don't expect. Would everyone kindly rise to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Under presentations of public hearings, we don't have any this evening. Action items, none. Board of Ed liaison reports, are there any for this evening? Hearing none. Board subcommittee report, I'm sorry. Board Member Gisela.
It might be a sub, I don't. what did you
CPAC,
s-
maybe?
No, HYAA.
HYA, let's hear it. Great, thank you.
So as we're starting the new season and the HYAA is requesting that the field usage, if it is possible to have that on a view document, a view only, so that they can see if they wanted to, like, oh, I want to do a last minute practice, or, oh, I want to do a last minute whatever, that they can see if it's available, that something is available or not. So I know that we have somebody new, doing that piece in our department. So this is a request from HYAA.
That's great. So we can take that under advisement, Dr. Cascone, if the team could get back to them.
I have an update for the policy committee.
Great.
So just let the community know that the NJSBA, a rep will be showing here next week at the meeting, public meeting, to go over, they've done an analysis and an audit on all of our policies. We're moving, we've left behind the other vendor. We're moving to the NJSBA, and they're going to have, this is going to be a big step for us. So what has it been, 4 months? Was 4 months? Did it move? They said it was going to be about 6, right?
Yeah, it was 3 to 4 months.
So the policy committee will schedule a meeting, and we'll meet with the rep, right? Just,
Yes.
we'll meet with the NJSBA. Will we meet?
Yeah,
with,
so-
virtually.
It's
Well, yeah, we're going to go into, do you want to segue right into old business? Was that it? All right, so let's segue right into old business, which is NJSBA policy manual conversion. Right?
That's right.
Sure, go ahead. Okay. Sure, go ahead, continue.
Well, Dr. Cascone will get to that in a bit. So that just letting everybody know we are going to be scheduling a policy committee meeting and within the next month. I just wanted to give an update because board member Lepresti's not here on the finance, and we want to say thank you to Jessica and Mike for compiling really critical data over the last 15 years, financial data, all school related, that will help us kind of analyze and help with our decisions moving forward. So we really appreciate the time that you put in for providing that for us. That was the update I wanted to give on the finance. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hey,
So,
Terrence,
yes, sir.
just a question for Chris. When we do talk to those policy people, which I'm sort of excited about because it's been like sort of like a stale thing for a few decades, probably, as long as I've been here. it'd be curious just to see from, you know, from High Point all the way down to Cape May, how many districts have made the move? Like, I gotta believe there's been not maybe a massive amount of districts moving, but at least a whole bunch after that, you know, from I guess that's over a year ago now, or about a year ago. So I'll be curious to see.
I have heard of other districts making the move and also speaking about it. And I applaud the board for setting up the policy committee, right? We didn't have a policy committee as of last year. So that was great that we put that together. And I think there's a lot of policies that haven't been touched in decades. So
Absolutely, yeah.
got to modernize that. Thank you.
Mentioning CPAC, the first meeting of the year will be October 9th. So if anyone is interested in coming, it's a support group for special ed and 504 parents. And the first meeting of this year is October 9th, right here in the Homedale High School Library.
Thank you very much. Any other board members? Good. All right. So we will then go back to that segue to old business for Superintendent, New Jersey SBA policy manual conversion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Yeah, just a quick follow-up to Vice President Damari's comments. Yeah, so we had a meeting with our contact at NJ School Boards. It was last week. They are in the process of finalizing the draft manual. We should have that within a week. Once we're in receipt of that, we'll work with the policy committee to get a meeting on the calendar. Our rep will come to that meeting to kind of go over the deliverables, but also to just speak to the committee about various ways that boards have gone about engaging in a comprehensive review of the draft manual. Do we want to have it just the policy committee charged with that? Do we want to divide the policy manual up into sections and have different subcommittees work on it? And just to have a conversation about what our MO is going to be for reviewing it so that we can get it adopted, full tilt. So that's all I have, sir.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments for the superintendent on that item? All right, moving on to strategic plan survey results. Dr. Cascone, thank you.
Thank you, President Wall. So, board members, in your binders, there's just a memorandum from me. I just thought in the wake, if you will, of we touched upon this the student voice survey at the last board meeting in the context of the district goals, more specifically district goal number 3, related to providing students with feedback. So I thought just kind of an additional step, I would just give you some additional information, just first kind of general to give you an idea about the surveys, and then some additional data. My intention also is to convert this into a public-facing document, which will be linked in my weekly newsletter, and posted on the website, so parents have the information, guardians have the information as well. So just to give you some high-level items here, the data triangle surveys, as we call them, were first administered in the spring of 22-23. This was to inform the development of our strategic action plan, which was done and completed largely over that following summer, the summer of 2022. This survey is being conducted annually. It was conducted again last year in the spring to track our progress across key indicators as outlined in the strategic plan. There are 3 surveys. One is a school performance scan, which is administered to administration, faculty, and staff. One is a family engagement survey, which is for parents and guardians. And the final was a student voice survey, which is administered to students in grades 6 through 12. The survey domains, the questions, focus on 5 different areas: leadership, curriculum, teachers, social emotional learning, and family engagement. And those questions are obviously tailored to the stakeholder group that's receiving the survey. The classification for the survey is the items are identified as either assets, emerging strengths, or possible risks. 75% of the respondents have to strongly agree with the question in order for it to be classified as an asset or green. And an emerging strength is when anywhere between 74 and 51% is considered an emerging strength, and 50% or lower is considered a possible risk. I mention that because this document has been shared digitally, and you do have the links to the survey, so you're able to sort of look at those different classifications and where we have assets and where we have possible risks. So in looking at the school performance scan administered between 22-23 and 23-24, this was from the perspective of our staff, teachers, administration, and support staff. Our overall assets increased from 25 to 35. Our emerging strengths decreased from 19 to 13, and our possible risks decreased from 6 to 2. Key improvements from the staff perspective were the improvement of cross-grade level collaboration, the improvement of relevance of professional development, frequency of classroom visits, and the social emotional support system improvement. And I just want to call attention to the fact that it's when you look at those indicators that are improved, and then you kind of connect the dots with the action steps in our strategic action plan, it's kind of exciting because you see that when we deliberately set goals and then deliberately focus on achieving them, it's nice to see when there's positive movement in those areas from the perspective of our staff. And if you've been paying attention to the strategic action plan and looking at it, you'll know that one of the domains is organizational systems, particularly in the area of human resources and staff performance evaluation and professional development. So I would like to suggest that these improvements are a reflection of improvements in our overall systems, which has been something we've been focusing on. In our student voice, middle school and high school, the assets remained the same. Emerging strengths decreased by 1, and we did have one question that did became a possible risk. Now I have to call attention to the fact that some of these percentage differences are very minor. So even if it decreased by 1% or 2%, we still codified it as such. And some of from the student perspective, the areas where they're really looking for us to focus are perception of classmates following rules, teachers checking understanding and tracking progress, feedbacks on tests and assessments, teachers explaining concepts in multiple ways, aka differentiation, teacher-family communication, and school leaders visiting classrooms. And so you'll note that in our district goals for this year, we made student feedback and teacher feedback to students a priority. So we are taking areas where we've identified possible risks and codifying them in the form of our district goals, and then ultimately administrator, school, and department goals. A family engagement survey assets comparison. Assets did decrease from 7 to 6. Possible emerging strengths increased from 13 to 16, and possible risks decreased from 5 to 3. And as far as from the family perspective, areas where they feel we need to improve, teacher contact only during times of concern, meaning folks are looking for teachers to reach out for positive things as well. School programs to support family involvement at home, and children discussing learning goals with families, meaning that when your kids come home, they're talking about their learning. So these are areas from 3 risks insofar as our parents' concerns are areas where we need to focus. Again, just sort of a couple of quick takeaways. I would argue that some of the areas where we've noted improvement are in bringing improvements to our operational and organizational systems. I spoke about that when I first got here. I thought that there was a lot of good stuff going on, but I thought that some of the turnover that we had in the upper ranks of the administration were leading to sort of inconsistencies in our system. So we've really been sort of making a concerted effort and focus to bring some consistency there district-wide. And I think we are seeing some of the benefits of that insofar as this one data set and this one instrument is concerned. Obviously, it is only one set of data. So that was just to sort of continue, give you a little bit more, color, if you will, on the survey, as well as some of the areas that we're focusing and some of the areas that, our constituents feel that we need to, that we're doing well and where we need to improve. So that is my report out.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open up to the board if you have any questions in the interim for Dr. Cascone on the report.
I got one, Scott.
Yes, sir.
So thanks for this. I think this is good. I know years ago when we were trying to get 9 through 12 surveys, it was a heavy lift, and it took a couple of years when we got it. So I think it's really good to know what the stakeholders and our customers think. Are we doing a good job, bad job, whatever? I like that we moved it back to 6 through 12. So now we're actually touching 3 schools. When for years it was really just the 12th grade. Actually, it was like almost like exit survey when you were leaving. If you want your diploma, grade us. But I think it's better to grade us while we're still actually in the process of teaching our students. One question I was going to have is, obviously, when we make it public, can we split it out by school and by grade, just so it's, just so parents who are Indian Hill, high school is of no relevance to them, or vice versa per se. And then when I'm looking at it, obviously, your first 2 pages of the summary report, which is great. And then when you look to page 3, because what I was looking at was, when I see 25 to 35, that's good. Obviously, that's a big improvement. But out of how many? What's the raw composite number there? I see it says 121 in 2022-23, and then 94 is the count. Is that the number of people we surveyed for that one?
Those are the respondents. Yep.
Okay, and then the next one I think was like 1,213 to 1137, so that's pretty much commensurate. And then the last one was pretty close as well.
Yeah, just
Those are
quickly.
the individual students.
They are, and I just want to be, Mr. Reddy, make
Yeah,
mention
please.
that, our response rate, and, I say this, with respectfully, because I know that folks are very busy, but our response rate from our parents and guardians was not good. We have, potentially 6,000 to 7,000 potential parents and guardians that could respond to the survey. And I think we had several hundred that responded. So I think it's important, and I'll obviously emphasize that when I share that out, that these are opportunities, both in the development of the plan and the ongoing evaluation of it. Certainly we understand that we have a community that's interested in providing feedback. And so this is a good opportunity to do it constructively and through formal processes that will ultimately find their way into our goal setting. So we're hoping for a more robust response. But the good news is that, our students, it was administered to our students in school, in English class or different classes. And that's why we have a high rate of response from our students, which is great because our students are obviously our primary stakeholders. So we were glad to have that number fill it out.
So I mimic the thoughts of Mr. Reddy, and I would just love the clarity on what the counts actually mean. There's 4 different pages, like are just those separate areas in terms of like kindergarten through 2nd grade or something of that nature. So you have the first page is 121 to 94 in terms of years, and then the second page 1213 to 1137.
That's junior high and senior high. That one's listed, but
Okay.
the first one, I was guessing staff.
That's staff.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry,
what I thought.
didn't
Yeah,
even
it
see the
didn't
top.
say,
I
but staff,
apologize.
yeah.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, sorry
I was
about
thinking
that.
the same.
You got it.
How do you think we can get more parents to engage?
I think Board Member Tasillo had a good idea to improve engagement with parents and guardians, right? To put it in with the enrollment. That was I like that idea.
But that's at the beginning of the year versus the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
So for that piece, I'm not sure because we want it more when the year's been ongoing.
We'll keep after it. I mean, I think there's some things, I think that our community wants to do it, so it's just a matter of, in my messaging and in providing access maybe in different ways. One possible thing we could do is when we're administering this survey, the time of year it is a time there are a lot of events at schools at that time. So maybe we could have computers, Chromebooks set up in the schools for when parents come to the events. They're there, they're in the building. So that's a possibility. So we'll obviously, put on our thinking cap and see how we can get more folks to
I
weigh in.
think you give it like parent homework and, out of however many surveys are done, if we can get 500 parents, 500 names will get put into a raffle and the kid gets to put 2 extra points on a test. Every single person would,
No
like you're-
superintendent for the day?
I don't think we should mess with the grades. I like the
I don't think any-
superintendent.
Why? It's like
Because people
like,
will not be happy with
but
that.
that's what's important to, like, if somebody, it's 2 points on one grade that somebody got an 89 and they want to push it to the,
Incentives, yeah.
right, like you need to incentivize it so that it's, a test of their choosing and you pick out of the, whatever, you're picking 5 random names and they get to, or it's a free night of a free homework pass if it doesn't want to be points but I just wanted to talk about, not really talk about, but just mention that under risks, for both staff, it's mentioned of behavior of, in class, and students is the behavior in class, or in school. That one was a little bit more vague. So I just, again, like, I go back to, like, we're doing the Live Home Del Blue and the positive reinforcement, but a piece of that still doesn't mean that we don't hold accountability. And I know that every board member here is on board with, holding kids to the demerits, and, at 10 demerits, they get to be held out of a student activity, or they can, and it's up to the discretion of administration. But, 10 demerits, that can add up pretty quickly. It doesn't take a long time to get those demerits. And I'd love to know kind of like a rolling list of how many kids are actually being held from anything. Or like, because is somebody actually looking at the demerits? is my, like just a general, because if they were, perhaps that's how these go down, if there was accountability. So just kind of a thought, but I know that we would all like to see that accountability piece.
Thank you. Anything else for the superintendent? Great. We're going to move on to new business. So the next item on business is a review of the agenda action items for September 25th, which is next week. The agenda is actually very straightforward. It's items such as leave of absences, approval of appointments, approval of salary adjustments, approval of professional development for staff, things of that nature, student internships. But want to open it up to the board if you have any questions for the superintendent or the departments on any particular agenda item. I'll just point out appreciation for the extra attention given to having assemblies here and adding, for example, the approval of a particular assembly at William R. Satz in Indian Hill. So the Board of Ed is familiar with who's coming in. And the subject matter experts that are coming in to engage with the students. That was, I think, an outgrowth of having some situations in the past where it wasn't so palatable who had come in and how they got in to have assemblies. So that's just want to thank administration for modifying that process, and we're seeing that kind of result on the agenda for next week. That said, are there any board members who have any questions on the agenda, or Dr. Cascone, do you have anything to add on the agenda for next week?
I got one for you, Terrence.
Yes, sir.
And this, I might go to your HR, Elena. Any chance on the Schedule Bs? So obviously we're in the winter season about the approvals. Can we add another column just says what year the coaches are in? It's just good for board members that don't know and board members that do know. Like, I know a lot of these repeats, which is great, but it just so people know, like, oh, that coach has been there for 15 years, has been there for 2 years. Just more situational awareness. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other board members? Okay, great. So we are now going to move to central office department updates. And I'd like to start off, we're getting an update on transportation. And certainly I've seen comments recently in Facebook and other anti-social media about how we're doing and that kind of thing. So what I'd like to do is open it up to Dr. Cascone to talk about transportation, but I'd like to give a huge shout out to Lara Carducci and the incredible work that she does and the administrative team in navigating an incredible transportation process that had an evolution from having challenges to having resolution and solution. So thank you. On behalf of the Board of Education, I think everyone agrees that there was yeoman's work done there. So that said, the arc of time from beginning school, whether it's in Homedale District or any district across the country, can you share the arc of time from where we were, where we are now, and where we're going, if you would? We'd appreciate that. And if folks have questions or comments from the public, there'll be a section when we're done with the department updates. You can feel free to come out and grab the microphone, and the mic will be yours to share any thoughts or concerns or additional comments you may have. Dr. Cascone.
Thank you, President Wall. So I could speak a long time on transportation because, I and, our team here and of course our community has been spending a lot of time thinking about it and talking about it. And obviously I've been communicating out pretty regularly, periodically to update the community in terms of our progress. So, I don't want to reiterate everything that I've already stated through those communications, but I will kind of offer a few high-level thoughts. I think first off is transportation has become an incredibly complex endeavor, certainly within the state of New Jersey in any school district you go to. We've talked about this before, whether it's just finding drivers, finding companies to bid routes. Those challenges are real for school districts. And, our school district, I think, has done a very good job over the years, largely because of the outstanding relationships that they have with the transportation companies. Maintaining those relationships has not always been easy. And I will say, this may be a difficult fact to hear stated publicly, but I think it's worth mentioning that we've had large, transportation companies that have just simply said, we don't want to work in Homedale anymore. That's real. I'm not going to name the company that we recently withdrew within the last couple of years from Homedale. And the reason that was cited was because of, at times, mistreatment by parents. Being bribed to add an additional route in with money or gifts or things of that nature. So it's a complex environment. It's become more complex with transportation, but our transportation company does have outstanding relationships. So within this more complex environment, you talk to people in other school districts, transportation is always a challenge. And it's a challenge in the beginning of the year because we go from not doing it. One day there's nobody here. There's no buses. There's no kids getting on buses to the next day we're transporting 2,000 kids. So inevitably in that beginning of the year, there are going to be, we don't have any dry runs. I mean, we do dry runs over the summer, but it's hard to make those authentic because you don't have kids on the bus. You don't have commuter traffic. You don't have any of the things. So really and I think that's really one of the key macro pieces. As much as the transportation department tries to predict in the development of their routes, what those will look like in real time in the school year, it's always theoretical until it actually happens. And so that's an annual exercise. That being said, I would be disingenuous if I did not acknowledge that we had some additional challenges this year. And I would argue that many, many of those challenges have been resolved through the good work of many people within the community, within the school district. Yes, I mean, we went to a new, not a fully new three-tiered system. We've always had a three-tiered system to some extent, but it wasn't a true three-tier. We did actually have some routes that had singles and things of that nature, but there were always buses within our fleets, within our contractors' fleets, that did runs at all three schools. That's not a new phenomenon. It is a new phenomenon for it to be across the board without having additional singles here and there. But the idea of a triple tier run is not in of itself something novel or new to Homedale. It's actually been in place for years, for decades. So obviously we had two, I think, unique challenges on some level. One was actually not even totally unique, and that was the complex. There has been, in the previous start times, if you were on Crawford's Corner between 7 a.m. and 7:20, you were hitting traffic. You were never sailing smoothly, freely into the complex. I mean, and anyone that tells you otherwise is not telling you the truth. It's always been trafficked, and it's always been a challenge. So obviously, we planned the best we could to accommodate we're getting approximately 600 cars a day within a 20-minute period of time. And with the help of the Homedale Police Department, and I would like to publicly thank the Homedale Police Department, Chief Alaco, they've been outstanding. I would suggest that now that people have become educated to the new traffic flows in the morning, that that it's flowing more regularly and consistently because you're not at the whim of a very short traffic light or at the mercy of somebody who's going to let you in making a left-hand turn. Now they're leaving that. Derek, and by the way, I just want to introduce, we have our engineers from Colliers here. We have Derek Jordan and Sophia Pela. Yeah, I was going to ask you a question about that. You were timing, and that was your colleague who was timing the amount of time that they were leaving the Crawford's Corner light open. I don't know if he shared that information with you, but it was several minutes. So whereas before you would advance maybe for 30 seconds and then be sitting in traffic again, or on Holland and sitting in traffic again, now you know that those police are releasing sometimes as many as 100 cars or more in each flow, and they alternate it off. They do it coming from Bell Works, they do it coming from the Municipal Center, and they do it coming from Long Street. Long Street. But that obviously we understood that in the opening days, there was, it was particularly heavy. But we've been observing it on a regular basis. We did ask our engineers, and though our plan was developed in collaboration with the Homedale Police Department, we did want to get some additional eyes on it. So we did have our engineers from Colliers come out and observe on site. Was that just yesterday that you were here? And if you like, if you would just come up and maybe share a little bit, Derek, about your observations, what you saw in terms of what we're doing internally on campus, and also some of what you and your team are planning to look at in the surrounding roadways, would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you introduce yourself, just to share this program and the transportation, the circulation elements were designed with, and thank you for the acknowledgement of the police department, multiple folks from the traffic safety areas of Homedale PD. We absolutely could not have done it without them. And so having the right turn on red side down and the manual controls was absolutely critical. But most boards of education don't engage an engineer, period. We have an engineer of record, Colliers, and they're located right down in Bell Works. And so we engage them to further analyze and to the extent that modifications are in order to make those recommendations. So we're putting forth first-class service to Homedale students and their families as well. And that's part of that analysis. So thank you for being here. And you have the floor. Introduce yourself, what you folks do and what you've seen so far.
Good evening.
Thank you.
I said my name is Derek Jordan. I work with Colliers Engineering Design. I'm a senior project manager in the municipal group. Superintendent Cascone reached out to us, asked us to come out and observe the traffic flows, the circulation patterns. So yesterday, Tuesday, myself and two other engineers from my office were here, both for the morning drop-off session, and then we returned again in the afternoon to observe the pickup and departure. We stationed in various parts around the school. I was over for both at the middle school drop-off point. We had put somebody more closer to where the high school drop-off is, and then another person closer to the signal and the exit point. Again, viewing the queuing, how fast cars moved, looking at the signals. I don't have the exact timing on the signal. One of the things we did notice is traffic does on-site move fairly well, fairly efficiently. And that is a good testament to the staff that's out there helping direct traffic. The police at the entrance and exit help greatly to move traffic along, and obviously not being at the whim of a timed light, and instead of having a police officer who can react to where traffic is building up. So we just did that work yesterday. We're compiling our notes. Over the next week or so, we're going to be making additional trips out here to concentrate more on looking at the traffic on Crawford's Corner Road at the signals and what the queuing times are there. We didn't take time to observe those yesterday. We wanted to concentrate on the school campus and how that circulation was going. And again, flowed fairly well and fairly efficiently.
And just so folks understand, traffic engineering, what are its core functions? Like, what's your reason for being here? What are you assessing?
So we want to assess the efficiency and the safety of movements. Those are the main things. So how long does a car sit in queue before it's able to move and get on site? From once it's on site, how long does it take to get to where it's dropping off or picking up a student and then exiting the site? So all of those movements, we want to look at how long they take, how long should it take, and are there things we can do to facilitate that and make things move as quickly as possible. Obviously, the longer a vehicle sits, not moving and just queuing, that means your traffic patterns are there's symptoms of inefficiency there. We also want to look at safety. You do have pedestrians and kids coming through the parking lot, through the drive aisles. We want to make sure those areas are safe, that there's open sight lines, that it's clear where cars should go and not go and all that. So we're taking a look at all of those things. And I said over the next week or so, we'll be making more observations and we'll bring our recommendations back to the administration and the board.
And to the extent there are recommendations that we'd act on, we have, I don't know if it's 1.8 or approximate million in our capital reserve fund. I'm not sure if we drain that down a little bit, but if there are modifications, the next question would be, well, how are you going to fund it? Well, we have funding for things within reason, so we can make those modifications, because essentially in the municipal side, you do master planning, and circulation element is a key element of a master plan.
Correct.
So in a sense, you're looking at our circulation element here that was designed in concert with the municipality and assessing it and making suggestions or potential mini projects, as it were, to improve it during the year, not in future years now, correct?
Correct. We
Right.
want, and we're always going to look at the improvements you can implement as quickly as possible,
Mhm.
and then more longer term stuff. So if there's both of those, we would break those out. Obviously, larger projects like roadway improvements, those are longer term projects, but sometimes there's other stuff you could do from a circulation standpoint and signage and stuff that can.
Yeah, and speaking to longer term projects, I'm going to open up to the board. Tomorrow, I'm going to meet with Mr. Romano, Committee Man Romano, who's our liaison. I'm going to meet him 5 o'clock at Bellworks approximately. And we're going to talk about, where we can work together and what the status is. There is a $3.5 million grant that you may recall we passed a resolution endorsing that grant to the New Jersey Department of Transportation, $3.5 million discretionary aid grant. Hopefully that's funded, regardless of whether it's funded or not. The board, and now you see why we did these things months and months and months ago. We designed to the credit of the taxpayers, the expense of creating a design for the left turn lanes to come in, for the traffic improvement plan, the Crawford's Corner Road Traffic Needs Improvement Plan that you have seen that has been displayed here months ago. The endeavor was to have it in the 2024 project, and maybe it was a little aggressive to have it already up and running, but the goal now would be the 2025 capital improvement project, unless it could be accelerated with the discretionary aid grant, because that would actually have to be spec'd, bid, go out to bid, bids come back, right, and then assessed by an engineer, probably on the municipal side, and then awarded within 60 days with local public contracts law, set up a pre-construction schedule, and start building it as soon as June comes and they break for the summer. So this all, again, it comes very quickly. So just to kind of give the longer term view, and some of the things like the drop-off lane at Rogie and some of the other things, we're going to look at that, because if you just looked at the field hockey team that just won 1-0, which is great, 2 wins in a row, you have the intersection of cars coming in here, for example, for the meeting, and children walking off the field to get back to their cars or the parents or what have you, and it's not as safe. And Denise King was here and said publicly, that has to be addressed. And so we can do that with the project as well. That's the point of engineering, just to share like the reason for you being here and communicating with us. I'd like to open it up to the board. Vice President
Thank you.
Mark.
Look forward to the final report, and it's good to hear that the flow is moving efficiently, although it'd be great to get recommendations on how we could be better. We're 2 weeks in, so I anticipate that we will continue to get better. So please analyze that as well and give us some ideas and recommendations. As Terrence mentioned, getting back real quick, have you seen any points where parents are stopping where they shouldn't to drop their child off and kind of stopping that flow? Is there a certain pain point that was recognized?
Not really. It seemed like the only time we saw anything that was like that is when like I was over on the junior high side. As cars lined up and they were opening up, if the cars ahead moved, the one car further back, kids might still be getting out of the car. But that's a few second delay, and the kids move, and then everybody moves up it. And the staff out there was really good about keeping the traffic moving and keeping the flow going. So it really operated pretty well. There's a few little points, but nothing that seemed really significant. And again, you've had a week or 2 weeks of school now where parents and the students who drive here have gotten used to the traffic patterns and know where to go. So that helps a lot.
And to support what Terrence said, I think it's important as a top priority, that area by Rogie drop off, because you kind of, as a driver, turn the bend to no sidewalk to just an immediate sidewalk with kids walking. I know it's been like that for years, but we've been talking about it for a while, and I think we should address it, whether the township could help out or not. It should be something that we should discuss in the budget. So thanks for mentioning.
And let's take a step back on the why. I spoke to, back to school night, I spoke to one of our fantastic math teachers, and I said, how are the new school start times working? And she said, they're absolutely fantastic. My students are coming in fresh, they're awake, they're ready to learn, and they're focused. That's the why. So if you're K through 9, you may not have a point of reference yet. You're fortunate, because Holmdel, as far as public schools, many private schools already start at a more appropriate time. We're more on the cutting edge, particularly Monmouth County. I don't really call it. It's kind of a dull edge. It already should be this way, really. If you think about it. As far as having appropriate start times for the health, welfare, and by the way, safety, and the grades, and just the subject matter, just the awareness and the health of sophomores, juniors, and seniors, particularly because they know they're familiar with the start times, they're familiar with the change, and the feedback has been incredible, not just from the students and the parents, but from the educators. Which it's early yet. I mean, school just started, so transportation. I've never heard transportation work wonderfully well on day one. So most parents, I get very few calls, frankly, very, very few. Most parents understand the first week is going to be a little choppy. If it's the second, third, and fourth week, there's a problem. So I found it tapered down. Getting back from Village on the transportation issue was a key issue, but that appears to be resolved. So I think most folks understand the first week in any district across the country has issues and challenges and opportunities on transport. But it's the why that I'm just reminding people about. If you're inconvenienced by an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes on the road, why? It's for the health and welfare of the children who learn here, the next generation. And if you ask any sophomore or junior or senior or parent or teacher, you will resoundingly hear that it is far better for them. And that's why we're here. It's why we're on the board, for the kids. Their health is improved every single day they're coming to school by that minor modification in time. So if there's a 1 week or week and a half convenience, rather inconvenience with a bus or a route or an issue, I think that's such an incredible investment in your children's future. And I think the test of time will prove that out to be the case. Board Member Tassilo.
I just wanted to say that, I want to make it clear that there's actually like software that's done. Like the bus stops are created from a software, right? It's not a human thing. So everything gets put into a software, and the software said that this was possible. As Dr. Cascone mentioned, we always had 3-tier, but it was like buses doing high school SATs and then either Village or Indian Hill, because generally Indian Hill and Village were at this, have been at the same time. So that, I think, was our complex. I've only heard positive things, including now more high schoolers are actually riding the bus because they don't have to get up when it's dark. So actually, we actually have more high schoolers even riding the bus, which to me is a positive. But I think that, one factor that we couldn't really think about was in the 3-tier was the fact that, Indian Hill and Village are across town. And we had never had them in really as part of the 3-tier because it was one or the other. And the bus companies ran the routes over the summer. They said it was doable. It clearly wasn't. We've adjusted. We've added some routes or some buses, and I don't know if it's 100% perfect yet, because I know that some parent, you're never going to make right. It's not 100%. You're not, but and I know that we still get the occasional email of some things, and things are getting still worked out, but through the process of doing it, we're a couple weeks in. How many days of school? 11 days in. And, I think with that, it's a tremendous feat, and that we're, getting it done. And the complex being on the same schedule with the later start time, I too have only heard positive things. So.
Thank you. And thank you, Collier, for being here. You feel free to sit down.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Levechi.
So as a parent of 2 children at Village and kind of going through what most of the parents and, stakeholders at Village specifically were going through with their children getting home at a much later time and so on, we have to kind of get back to exactly what President Wall was saying, is that these changes were done for the health and welfare of the children, right? It's, if we were able to foresee all these problems that kind of would have arose, we would have a lot different lives because we, obviously we don't have a crystal ball. So the fact of what the administration and the transportation department is trying to fix and how quickly they are trying to resolve it, and as much as they've gotten to resolve, should be just a testament to everybody in this town how hard they're working to make sure that this is right. And I really appreciate all that they've done. And just sometimes it's a lot of people just don't understand sometimes why certain things are happening. And I think it's our job as a board to be out there and be advocates for them and giving them that information so they understand that, hey, here's what's happening. You know what? But what you shouldn't worry about is that we're on top of it. Like, we're going to help get this done. We're going to do whatever the administration needs from our end, which, can really only be giving them feedback. to help them and assist them in making decisions to make this better in a more efficient and timely fashion. So I really thank you guys, and I hope that all the parents out there, obviously we all went through some trying times over the last 2 weeks. You should be happy that we have a school system that is on top of this, and this is a priority for them, and they only want to get it done as quickly as possible and as safely as possible for your children. So
Thank you. Yeah, I was at Village School, back to school last night. I'm speaking to Byron Carducci, who's here. Thank you very much for being here. And modifications continue to be made on a near daily basis to address issues. It's an ongoing refinement process. So thank you for that. So we'd like to. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I think Pete has.
Yeah,
that's
that's
go ahead.
question, Terrence. Glad this is all happening. Obviously, we've been talking about it for a while, so it's good to actually get stuff done. I mean, as long as I've been here, it's one thing, like, we're gonna do something, do it. And we're making adjustments as we go. I would like to know by probably next month or month after. I'm curious how much our budget is actually going to increase based on what we thought it was going to be, because I know we're splitting routes, adding routes, things like that. So I would like to know what that additional cost is going to be as a board, because that's important. When you're going to go see Township Committee member, who was our liaison? Romano, thank you. You could help remind him, if he needs a reminder, that they got $7 million of pilot money. I mean, thank you guys for coming, but I can tell you, sitting up here a very long time, I don't expect anything to get done with the traffic. I really wish it will. I truly wish it will. When I'm off this seat, it would be, there's, I think, 8 or 9 projects.
We'll keep fighting for you, Pete.
Oh, I absolutely will keep fighting till the very end. But I've known that we've done this report multiple times, and here we still are. We have 9 months till June. And Terrence is in the municipal world. We are up against it. If they don't make this a priority, like in November, there is no way in the world we're going to get any work done on Crawford's Corner, South Holland, or wherever else, if they don't make it a priority. And unfortunately, $24 million of pilot money, we haven't gotten a dime. They have $7 million this year alone. This is easy, low-hanging fruit, if you ask me. So I would implore you to do
with a
it.
couple more pilots in the works, right?
Possibly, exactly. I
Right.
just know what we know right now. And if it could get even worse or better for them, whatever you want to call it. So it's very upsetting to sit up here when I know we could do better. And I know with all the people that work at Bell Works and whatever's going to go on Advantage, though, that traffic is going to get even worse and worse and worse if we don't address it and stay on top of it. So thanks for meeting with them at least.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I agree with that. And I'm empathetic to any negative experience that a student and family had. And I know that the transportation created a bunch, and I'm definitely empathetic to that. And I know Village was hit there, being the last school. At the same time, I do applaud Lara and the team and the administration, the staff, everybody for improving every day. They yielded a lot of requests. I understand the frustrations with routes changing and delays and all of that, but they really, I think, yielded things professionally. Dr. Cascone updated the community every day, was transparent, letting the community know where the pain points are and that we're working on them and still working on them, and we'll continue to work on them. So everybody, I feel, has been being heard, and I get that there's frustrations involved and nobody wants to experience that, but I do applaud the team for working on this and trying to better the situation for all those involved. Being on the board now a couple of years, what I've learned from day one is transportation's a complete mess in this state. And all districts are dealing with this, and doesn't matter why. I mean, certainly do your research, but it's a mess. And I think that the relationships we've been able to maintain with this particular bus company, to work with them and now be able to add buses and whatnot is really significant for us to have. Something that's not being said is, and I don't necessarily correlate all these bus issues because of the start times. There's bus issues every year that get worked on. The start times did change things a bit, but let's just talk about a major change that we did with our school district that I feel like has went very well in the big scheme of things on how this was rolled out. And yes, the feedback from the students is they really are happy that they're getting that extra time, and the teachers are saying they're more alert in the first class. So I think this was very important. And what we did talk about in prior meetings, as we discussed this many, many times publicly about changing start times, is it's a trend that's picking up in New Jersey. And we reviewed other superintendents' messages of school districts that they've done it in. We watched some seminars. There was presentations. We discussed it, and it made sense, and it does make sense to do this. So I feel this big change and a couple of weeks worth of transportation issues, but having that relationship and the administration team, We're going to need that moving forward as well, because the busing is going to get worse. It really is. This is the biggest challenge. And we've got to just continue to work hard to maintain that. And I'm glad Pete brought up the pilot money. I know some of the conversations that have come out is the awareness of the courtesy busing, which has been discussed at meetings. And that's something very important as well. Courtesy busing, whether you're at 2 miles or 2.5 miles, is a $700,000, $800,000 expense that the school district is not required. And many districts are considering cutting that busing because of how bad the budgets are. So these are real conversations that are happening, and we want to continue to listen to the community, but we've got to make the best overall decisions, and it's going to affect a lot of families. So it's good that people are becoming more aware of the transportation issues. Something that hasn't been discussed is, with this trend happening in New Jersey of pushing start times back, as the school districts that continue to delay this, all of a sudden, when you spoke about this, there's going to be a splurge of districts doing it at the same time. And it's going to be nuts trying to figure out your transportation during that time. So I feel like we're ahead of the game here, and also following a lot of districts that I feel they're making the right move, and the way they've experienced that. And we've spoken about that stuff as well. So let's just keep getting better each day. So thank you.
Yeah, and there's another example. He's talking about transportation. Like, we moved to the 8 o'clock. St. John Vianney is already 8 o'clock. So we're not unique in that way. From the public side, once those other Monmouth County districts, and they will start folding into their parents are asking their boards, why is home till 8 o'clock and we're still 7:20 and my daughter's in the dark in the morning, right? In the middle of winter. Those questions, they're going to start moving towards that way. And they will struggle when they're all surging and trying to figure this all out. And we're done already. I'll give you a different example that just maybe reminds me of, and give credit to prior boards. We were one of the first public school districts to reopen an in-person education with COVID. One of the first. I was told we were the first, but we were one of the first. Why did that happen? We got ahead of the supply chain problem. When all the districts started, you, Carlos, very well. We already had orders in. We met with our professionals. We did a $1.3 million spend for our educators and the other folks to make sure it was safe, so our staff felt comfortable, safe to be here, to get the kids back into school, which resulted in Stanford and Harvard saying we were the only district in the entire state of New Jersey that had no learning loss. I don't know if I give 100% credence to Harvard and Stanford, but that's their study. And that is because, do you? I don't know. So, but my point is by getting ahead of it, sometimes there might be some friction in making decisions because all the other lemmings are going in the same different direction. But the right way to go is that some of the decisions that were made. So that's impacting the education of the children now, where other schools and other families are suffering from learning loss because, for whatever reason, and there are many different thoughts to this, those schools stayed shut for months and months when parents struggled to do at-home education, that kind of thing. So, so anyway, that said, are there any other items on that? We'll move to Mr. Howard, if may. We move to your department, and then Dr. Lamoglia, and we'll just move the department reports along if we can. Anything else? Good, sir. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'll just stick to the major things that are going on from the Human Resources Department. Just want to acknowledge that we have the process starting for Governor Educator of the Year. That information was sent out to teachers. We have our timeline kind of together. The winners from last year have been notified. They're a part of our committee. So we get the committee together, we get the nominations from the staff. Once we have the people who are identified for this school year, then we of course have our Board of Education presentations and awards to those people. So that's the major, one of the major things that are going on. And the second, I just wanted to commend the members of our DEAC and SCIP committees because we did a lot of work over the summer in reference to the new evaluation model. And they spearheaded during our professional development, they actually spearheaded giving that information back to the rest of the staff. And I think that's something that it's the first time that's really kind of ever happened here, that the committees are actually the ones that are spearheading and leading the new evaluation model. So I just wanted to just acknowledge them and thank them for their work and their support. And that's all for the departments.
Can I ask you, and all my years in this district, I never, I didn't realize, we don't put out to teachers, not teachers, I'm sorry, parents for the Teacher of the Year nomination. I mean, that is a normal, I know in my school district, parents can nominate.
Well, there's guidelines that we're supposed to follow, right? I think we talked about it last year. That's what we're following?
But aren't parents part of the group that can nominate and fill out the form?
From the form, no, I didn't really see that. I can go back and take a look. Your district does that?
Yes.
I think there's a guideline that, there's a guideline. And I think last year, I think you're right. I think the parents were, maybe it was just past practice, but I read the guidelines myself and I recall that element was not included. And so.
But can be.
Can or should be.
I think it should be.
Why wouldn't it be? Right.
Well,
So
right.
if we can maybe review that guideline, because I think this ties to Teacher of the Year and that, yeah, Educator of the Year. Yeah, we talked about that.
Like
last
I have somebody that I would absolutely nominate, right? Like, so I wouldn't, like, that would
Yeah.
be, and I feel like aren't the parents and, or it could even be like a student, especially at the high school or SATs, isn't that the most impactful type of nomination that we can get?
Yes.
So.
But
if-
then you're running into a popularity contest. You run into every
Well, what is
teacher will
it-
be nominated.
what
'cause every
is it
teacher wants to be a
anyway?
teacher.
Right.
Right.
Well,
No,
I
well,
see what you're
but the
saying.
form, I mean, as a former winner of that, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I like the way you slipped that in there.
Thank you. So no, but the point, like the things that make it impactful, because it's actually not a popularity contest. The names are blacked out so that the committee cannot see who it is written about. And I had the opportunity to then read it after the fact and what was said about me and why it, and it was one of the most rewarding pieces of paper that I'll ever have in my career. And it was, it was from a parent who felt that I made the difference in their child's life. And, so I'm just saying I think it should be, I'm pretty sure it is part of the guidelines that can nominate. And I think that we should be opening that up to, maybe, and I don't, maybe students from SATs and above or not student, but definitely parents.
Here, I'll just
So-
simplify it. You're supposed to solicit I'm reading it. Solicit nominations from the entire school community, administrators, staff members, students, parents, and community members for teacher and educational service professional awardees using the required nomination. This is actually what I sent to administration last year because I thought the process was interesting last year. So it is all the above. It's a selection process, nj.gov. And so it's pretty straightforward. So if we can just follow, I think
Awesome.
the request is to simply follow the guidelines that are set forth that include administrator, staff members, of course, but also students and parents and community members. That may be other, folks in the community, however that's defined. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I just need to be sure that we stick, there's specific timelines that, we have to do and have this information in. So as long as we can stick to the timelines and do it, I mean, it's just really just an email. I'd have to coordinate and put something like that together.
Appears to be December 6th or by December 20. You have time. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah, we have time. So yeah, great. Let's do that. I will defer to superintendent administration, but I remember this last year. I had concerns about the process myself. Yeah. Okay.
Is
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, just one question on the Stop It. Is that an annual renewal that we're doing with them? The Stop It software?
Yeah, it's a annual renewal would stop it. And we're also going to, like every year, we do a presentation to the students as well. So we're doing that this year also. Haven't had the dates yet. Amanda and I and Frank Papalia, we go around, we do Stop It, the BTA and stuff about character ed. We do that for each building during a faculty meeting. We just don't have the dates for that yet.
Would we say that the student engagement is increasing? Have we seen a gradual increase that it's being used more and more? All right. Okay, good. So hopefully it increases this year. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Is that it?
Yeah. that's-
Okay, thank you very much. And so on the finance side, then we're going to go to Dr. Lamoglia. If Mr. Patrizio, if you have any update on any items, and one item I wanted to share, Board Member Reddy was discussing pilots. We are contracted now, instead of having, I ran numbers myself in prior years, instead of having volunteers running the numbers, we're engaging a financial professional who's going to run all the pilot numbers, his historical pilot numbers with all the data. So the taxpayers can have, bulletproof math that is, arm's length bulletproof math, so they can see the impact on the school district. Or let me just say the kind of equilibrium that flows between the municipality and the school, so you understand where your dollars are going. If something's flat at the municipal side, yet the district side is at a 2% cap, that you understand it's your money, where your money is going, and how it's differentiated between the pilot legislation, which allows the school to receive zero from a typical tax rateable. When it goes to a pilot, your school side receives zero. The county gets, I think it's 5%, but the schools get zero. But we don't have a great, in-depth assessment of that. And courtesy busing, as Vice President Damari mentioned earlier, that's on the chopping block on districts across the state. My position, I think everyone shares a position, is to retain courtesy busing. Then the question is, okay, well, how do you do that with a 2% cap? So we're going to get the data that's needed for administration, for our educators to just know the numbers, because that ties to staffing, that ties to a number of different things, ties to contracts, right? These things all tie together. And so that data, and that'll be public. Once it's created, it'll be public information. So, but did you want to share anything in additional or any other finance items?
No, that's, appreciate that update with Phoenix Advisors, what they're working on. Simply from an audit perspective, we communicated with the auditors, already started providing information requested and working with them to schedule field work. We're anticipating right now field work will start mid-October, and we'll certainly update the board as we progress through that process.
Thank you very much for that. Dr. Lamoglia.
Hey, Terrence, I had a
Yes,
question
sir.
or a
Yeah.
comment from Mike and the Buildings Ground. Just want to say thank you for so when we did the referendum a few years ago, we sort of forgot to add pads to the walls in the new wrestling room and things. And it was really an accident waiting to happen. So I'm glad we got those pads put in. And obviously while we're at it, we got pads in the SATs and the gym, which we haven't done in 20 years. I have no idea how long, but thank you for that. So now we won't have a kid getting thrown, during wrestling into a wall that does not pad and things like that. So appreciate taking the initiative, you and Ken and those guys getting it done.
Yeah, just appreciate that, Mr. Reddy. It's just an important to note. That's an example of a lot of hard work with the current board, former boards, and administration and team. That goes all the way back to our Homedale 2020 referendum, which was an extremely successful referendum. We were able to accomplish that, and we realized efficiencies through the process, working with our engineer firm and our construction managers. And this past summer was the final summer where I think we worked 7 consecutive summers, referendum related stuff. And these were additional items that we were able to complete that were part of the original spirit of the referendum. So it's a huge accomplishment, and the goal always, the vision was to continue to certainly in the complex here, was to continue to address areas where we could, so that it didn't look like pockets where there were new areas and old areas, and I think that will be a continual effort. But we appreciate the recognition. There's a lot of hard work that our team puts in, and we take pride in having these facilities ready and appealing to our students and our parents and our stakeholders, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you very much. And one quick item on the facility side, Dr. Cascone, one of the parents communicated to us regarding a concern of a leak or potential mold issue. We had the research. Can you just give some points of interest on that?
Sure. So just a couple of quick points. And going back to the opening of our schools, very early with COVID, part of that was due to state-of-the-art HVAC systems, bipolar ionization technology, Our Buildings and Grounds Department also took the initiative in applying for a state grant, and not a lot of people did. And so we had, again, state-of-the-art mobile air purification,
Ultraviolet light.
ultraviolet
Yep.
light, HEPA filters. So those are in all of our classrooms. So just to say that the air quality, and we obviously undergo our annual air quality tests, all of which are, are clean on an annual basis. It was, a Facebook post was shared with us by a parent of someone who was alleging that there was mold. They saw a discolored ceiling tile and were putting out an assertion publicly on Facebook that we had a mold in our schools. So obviously we took that very seriously. We always take that very seriously. So our Buildings and Grounds team got down there, evaluated it. There was in fact no mold. But there is a current leak that is being addressed. There was no moisture in the school. And the contractor is coming to repair the leak, the roof leak today. So I can state publicly that there was no mold found at Indian Hill School, at the site identified, or any others.
Thank you. Did you have something?
Yeah, just Buildings and Grounds. It's been rewarding to see the lights being utilized by the players, right? Pretty much every night now. So I know that took a while to get up there, but that's nice to see that now that we're on Buildings and Grounds. And then also the paint job on the SATs floor. So are we no longer the Hawks in SATs, or what's going on? What's the update there?
You're like Rip Van Winkle. You've been asleep for 20 years? Or?
What's going on?
It's the Hornets. It's no longer the Hawks.
Well, we got rid of the logo.
Well, we got rid of the logo on the floor.
Yeah.
And then next is on the bleachers.
So one note that I wanted to talk about Buildings and Grounds, I don't know if this would be new business, but an area of priority that I'd like to put, if we could find a way to get in our budget, or at least talk about it, is the side of the high school, going with that side entrance, the slabs. There's a lot of cracked slabs and issues there on that entrance that we should look at. And if we decide as a board to maybe look into fixing it, get some prices. Does anybody else know what I'm talking about here? Because they're pretty significant. It's just, and you had said that had just gotten done, right?
I can't say for sure that it was part of the
You know where I'm
referendum,
talking
but
the slabs on the side entrance of the high school, all those slabs that the bus me, I mean, there's many of them that are in really bad shape, where I almost feel like a liability if somebody takes a spill.
Perhaps there's a maintenance bond on them or some other type of.
But I thought somebody mentioned they weren't installed too long ago, so.
Yeah, we'll certainly check on that.
Yeah, let's
And-
definitely
and-
look into that. It's an area of focus.
We'll do. And I just want to make one final comment about the roofing, because it does tie back to the Homedale 2020 referendum project I referenced prior. What we committed to as a district was, when we were assessing that project, the plan was, because we have solar panels on our schools going years back to when we moved forward with a solar PPA, power purchase agreement. So that's a 15-year lease. That lease comes to an end in the 27-28 school year. So the plan always was, when we were doing this referendum, was because you incur a lot of costs, just wasted costs, if you do roof work when you're in the middle of a solar PPA, because you're paying when the panels are down, and it was just wasted money. So the plan was to be very strategic about addressing leaks as they come. And as you can imagine, when different storms come and wind patterns blow, leaks arise. But we are very aggressive and very proactive of addressing those leaks. And the larger plan is to work with our professionals and be ready when those panels do come up to address it then. And there's several things that can go on with that. You can decide to re-up and put new panels down, and you can work with addressing the roof. But that's going to be the time when we address the roofs, when the panels are up, so we're not wasting unnecessary costs to have panels down. But that was just important to give some background about how we've been very planned approach to address roof leaks, because they will continue as different rain and weather patterns come, but we're very proactive in addressing them, and we certainly work with our building leaders and our amazing faculty, and we have a work order system, and everyone's encouraged to immediately address concerns and report them. So our team, our maintenance team, our wonderful maintenance team, can be very proactive in addressing them timely.
And I think it's a good moment to, and we're doing pretty good here, 10 after 8. We've powered through a good deal of the agenda. I like Dr. Cascone to share what the phrase, the chain of communication or chain of command, as it were. When I was first getting involved a number of years ago, I called it the chain of denial because I felt I got involved in the Board of Ed because I wasn't happy, right? And that's, with 10 signatures, anybody can run, right? And that's a good thing. But the chain of command or the chain of communication is designed to have an efficient way for parents, students, parents, caregivers to be heard. And so while anecdotally, you might get something from what I've called for years, anti-social media, fake book, whatever version of things where sometimes I'll see something on Facebook, I'm in extreme pain. Can somebody share a urologist? How about 911? You're waiting for Facebook to respond to you. So that said, wherever there's a lead on, say, for example, a mold concern, whether it's real or political, some of the pages are run by candidates. That's okay. It's a free country. But wherever you get that lead from, it's an opportunity to correct something. It's incredibly inefficient. So the reason I want to bring this up, hasn't been brought up in a while, is that we want to, where we can, and if it fails, it fails, but to follow the chain of command or the chain of communications. The board gets emails, and that's fine. Anybody should feel free to email board members at homedoschools.org anytime they want, particularly if they feel that communications are failing. But there is a process of very welcome communications, whether it's building principals, staff, the educator community. I've found a wholesale change in the last 5 or 6 years, just my opinion, and particularly with administration, an exceptionally available superintendent. So can you just speak to that briefly? It's not, not a long discussion, but it's just a reminder, because we'll take the nuances, the wisps in the wind, whether they're political or attack or whatever they are, and just see, is it real, is it not? Because we don't want anybody to suffer in silence. But it's terribly inefficient. And so this is a kind of a welcome mat for any parent. If you have a problem, I get calls or individual board members get calls, and we try to get it to where it needs to be. But for example, if it's a health concern, we don't know, we want to know right now. We don't want to see what's going on somebody's feed next to the food they ate today, right? We want to be able to act on it and correct it immediately. So can you just speak to, hold on just a second, let me finish. I would just like, and then you can have the mic. If Dr. Cascone, you could just chat about the chain of communication or the chain of command, because I also want our educators and our staff members to understand that we do respect that flow. Sometimes we get information directly and we try to redirect it or answer those questions, and we want people to reach out to us. But can you just, what is the program that's in place? So just so parents or any of the folks in the education community and our taxpayers know what's available to them. And then Mr. Damari.
Sure. So we did that was actually one of the action steps in our strategic action plan, was to develop a chain of command. That's what it's called. I mean, that could be a little bit, sort of off-putting, right? It sounds very, very military and things of that nature, but I think you get the drift. I will actually include that in my weekly newsletter on Monday. It is on the district website under the parent tab. And it's categorized by the type of issue, and then it gives you step by step who you would start with and then go up. When I got here almost 3 years ago, I was immediately impressed by, particularly with leadership in this district, with the timeliness with which they responded to parent concerns. It was apparent to me right away that it was an administrative culture that held themselves highly accountable to responding to parents. We do our best at the end of the day. We're not machines. We do have to eat. We do have to sleep. We do have families. So, we don't spend, every waking moment on email. And there are times of the year for different departments when there are really high ebb points, if you will. And suffice to say that transportation is going through one now. They've responded to nearly 1,000 emails and phone calls over the course, and that's basically 2 people, and they're sitting here. So, if for whatever reason you have not gotten a response in as timely a fashion as you want, they really are doing their level best to get to everyone. But really the idea is that you go to the immediate source. It's sort of like when we look at our collective bargaining agreements and we look at grievance procedures. What's the first step in a grievance procedure? What's level one of a grievance? It's basically to bring that issue up with the person who's immediately involved, right? So if it's a classroom issue, you go to the classroom teacher. Now we understand that sometimes those conversations can be uncomfortable or difficult. And the administration, I get calls from parents and emails sometimes where they reach out to me for assistance. And I say, I'm happy to be a sounding board for you, but I do want to understand the extent to which you did go through the chain of command. I'm not going to say I'm not speaking to you, but I'll say I'm really just simply a sounding board to help you navigate where you should go next. It's not to me, just so you know, but I can work with you to say, to kind of help you navigate the chain of command and where you should start. I think the other thing is that it sort of honors and validates the knowledge that people have at each of those levels, right? Because you can ask me about a teacher's classroom instruction. I probably don't have the foggiest idea what's going in there on a day-to-day basis. The best person to ask is the person who's actually in there on a day-to-day basis, right? So that's a little bit about that. I will share it in my upcoming newsletter to the community, just so you can kind of get a sense of for different issues you would reach out to. But this is an administration that, listen, final thought, we're not shying away from areas where we need to improve. We appreciate community feedback. We're always trying to get better. I tell parents all the time, every concern we get from a parent, we're trying to address to the best of our ability. So know that that's the culture of this administration. It was that before I got here, and certainly that since I've been here. It's a culture of administrative accountability to parents and continue to try and make this school district the best we can. And the chain of command is a good way to go about that work. But again, if you've been frustrated or if you don't have a high level of confidence that conversation is going to go well, that's good. That's okay too, right? And it's okay to go to the next level of the chain of command and say, listen, I really do want to speak with the teacher, or I really do want to speak with the principal, but based upon X, Y, and Z things, I'm not feeling comfortable. And so an administrator will sit in and have that conversation together. The important thing is that we're coming together and engaging in civil discourse about it with open minds. And the expectation is always for our district staff that we're coming to the table professionally, civilly, with open minds, and honestly reflective about our practices. So that probably gave you more than you wanted there,
No,
but
thanks.
that,
No, I appreciate it.
yeah.
I want to give it to Mr. Damari, but also anytime you want to email board members at homedaleschools.org, just so you're aware, it goes to all 9 members, and it also goes to the attorney and the business administrator and also the superintendent. So if you ever want an all call, send it. Absolutely feel free to send it. Just wanted to remind folks that there's a process that they can certainly take advantage of. If it's broken, if it's not working right, email the board. It's 100%.
Yeah, no,
Damari.
just wanted to note, as we're talking about this, I've definitely grown to respect the chain of command. And what I want to say to community members is I appreciate hearing from community members. That's where we learn. I mean, we're not in the schools. We don't know everything that's going on. People seem to be surprised sometimes when we don't know a certain situation, but I appreciate hearing about it. But once a board member cuts through the chain to try to bring it to Dr. Cascone's attention or whatever people are expecting, it creates a dysfunctional organizational environment and a lot of disrespect for the teachers, the administrators, the staff, that they weren't given the chance for that community member to at least reach out to them first. Try to communicate with them first is very important. So sometimes when community members reach out, my first question is, did you go to so-and-so? And if it's no, there's really not much I could do. I want to see that step happen. And I feel that our administration staff, everybody they're very responsive. They take accountability. I see they're trying to get better each day. So if that wasn't happening, I can understand it. But I just want people to understand kind of the respect level, because I don't want to disrespect the staff that we need to respect here. With that being said, one thing that we were talking about as board members as well, I feel the support from my colleagues here is communication, just to put it out there. I certainly get frustrated myself about certain things. We all do in life. And I try to learn to be a better communicator and not make emotional knee-jerk reactions. But what's really important and what tone that I want to make sure, I'm really proud to be from Homedale because there's great people here. But what's important to me is communicating to people like the bus drivers and the teachers and the staff in a very respectful way. No matter how frustrated you get, I know sometimes I hear a lot of feedback on a lot of disrespectful conversations, and it just hurts me to hear that, because we are people and they're going through a lot as well, and they're trying to give their best. But I think if we just respect everybody as a community, it's going to be better for the kids. And that's what I wanted to comment on.
Thank you for that. And that's also why we have committee of the whole. You have the department heads here. For years, Homedale didn't have this format. We changed it so it's more transparent. You're kind of seeing things get done, and you have the subject matter experts here to discuss any issues that may concern you. Twice, and we're meeting twice a month. It used to be once a month. So I think it's far superior. I hope that folks think that. Dr. Lamoglia, and just as a note, what you're talking about your department, it's fully about 400, about 13% of our student population avails themselves of the services of this department. Significant. So if you can share your update, that would be great.
Sure, I have some noteworthy items to update everyone on. First, I'd like to expand on what Board Member Tasillo updated everyone on earlier with our CPAC committee. I want everyone to know that we have a CPAC booth at both our Indian Hill and Village Back to School nights. So please feel free to stop by. You'll find all of the dates for all our meetings on our website. But we're excited about our first meeting on October 9th. Instructionally, I'd like to just update everyone that our MAP assessments are being administered now to students in our resource replacement programs all the way up to 10th grade. So that's been an expansion over the years. So we're really excited about that. But we're most excited about the fact that there's consistency now across through 8th grade using our Fontes and Pinnell reading assessment for all of our students, and all of our special education teachers have been trained. So just another expansion on that.
Thank you very much. Open it up to the board if you have any questions for Dr. Lamoglia on her report. Well, thank you very much. One topic I do want to bring up, I mentioned this, Dr. Cascone, it's not for tonight, but just to share the consideration of including new curriculum for neurodiversity, for folks that are differently abled, so students can study it, that an actual course or coursework. Again, not just putting the topic out, not for long discussion, but we have where the gearing is towards stigma-free environment, and as well it should be, and taking that a step further, that to the extent it fits in standards and it could be a functioning coursework, so you can take be it an elective where you can learn about developmental disabilities, spectrum, all of the different dynamics of whether it be physical or spectrum dynamics, however they're properly described, and building a curriculum element so kids can learn, have an elective, and not just 10 minutes on a health class, but just dive in and understand, maybe a sibling, a family member, a friend, so there's coursework that you can take to understand, to learn about these, we have 400 IEPs, correct, approximately, in a district of 3,000 students. That's a huge cohort, right? And how many family members would like their siblings to understand, to take that, a class in that? I don't know what that would look like. It's not my space, but that's just something I wanted to bring out, a neurodiversity curriculum and physical disability curriculum. So it can be taught and people understand it, and then take that in their future endeavors, wherever they may go. So we're still in new business. Are there any items? And then
We got curriculum.
I'm sorry, what? Curriculum?
Yeah.
Well, good. Let's dive in. You're very abrupt today, Mr. DeMar.
There's a lot here, so I'm going to be selective. These updates, of course, will be, as they are always, will be included in my weekly newsletter, so that our community members can see, the many great things that are ongoing. So in the area of English and ESL, this was submitted by Dr. Arciero, the supervisor. One note, thanks to the aligned schedules at both SATS and Homedale High School, this marked the first time that the entire English department was able to meet as one team to engage in vertical articulation across grade levels. In fact, some of our teachers were meeting for the first time, which is pretty wild. Moving forward, plan to continue holding combined meetings when appropriate throughout the school year. So, just another kind of, I mention it because it's another positive implication of the combined schedule, is just being able to have common time for teachers to plan and work together. The HFEE generously awarded a mini grant to Michelle Wojcik, the district's ESL teacher at Indian Hill School. Ms. Wojcik was given the opportunity to purchase Pocket Talks for the ESL program, which will be utilized district-wide. Pocket Talks are translation devices that are used by our multilingual students and their teachers to foster understanding and learning as they navigate the language barrier while they learn English. Back in my day, I was an ESL teacher, just hard copy bilingual dictionaries, but leveraging technology for good things with our English language learners. So in the area of social studies, just a quick item, expanding dual enrollment offerings. This year, they are partnering with Seton Hall to offer sociology as an option for the students. And of course, dual enrollment is an option through which students can achieve college credit while taking classes here in Homedale High School. Math and business, mathematics, early release days on September 4th and 5th allowed the 4th and 5th grade math teachers time to be trained on their new active panel 9 Promethean boards. These new devices will allow them to streamline their classroom instruction, allow for the use of virtual manipulatives, and so much more. Additionally, mathematics teachers in grades 6 through 12 were trained on the use of their iPads. The iPads, which connect to a streaming box, Vivi, allows teachers to annotate on their device and project the annotations while moving around the classroom to interact with all students. This was, of course, this was this year's Homedale Foundation for Educational Excellence annual gift. Through their donations, we were able to purchase the software as well as training. So Ms. Clark, a high school business teacher, has attended several training sessions this summer, including an in-person session on the University of Delaware campus. These training sessions have prepared her to teach a new course in the business department, Entrepreneurship Experience. As students work through the course with a dual enrollment opportunity through UDEL, they prepare for entry into an entrepreneurial competition, the Diamond Challenge. The Diamond Challenge invites high school students worldwide to build solutions to solve problems. Science, technology, and engineering. Teachers in Village and SATS have already started to take advantage of community partnerships with Homedale's Green Team to continue sustainability projects in their schools. These projects will include greenhouses at SATS and rehabbing various gardens at Village School, and will extend throughout the year. Also excited that we are expanding our dual enrollment offerings by partnering with NJIT to offer forensics as dual enrollment. Also pleased to continue our partnership with Stockton, offering dual enrollment through our advanced studio production and engineering capstone courses. The robotics program, is to pronounce it, we will be hosting a first tech challenge competition in November. It'll actually be at Village School. Our students will be competing against other teams from around the state. Visual and performing arts, it's that time where we start to do our performances. So in the Indian Hill fall play this year, it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, fitting for the fall season. And so those auditions are posted, and at 7 through 12, the High School Theater Guild will offer a production of Romeo and Juliet. Guidance department, all counselors have been retrained on Columbia Suicide Screening Tool and are fit to return process. Mrs. Risatello and the elementary counselors are working on a presentation schedule for the school year. These presentations will align with the Live Homedale Blue and Character Strong traits. And there was an annual senior parent presentation this week, in fact, Monday. The presentation focused on the following group presentation reviewed important aspects of the college application, including counselor and student senior meeting, easing anxieties throughout the college application process, guidance through the application process, and creating and navigating your list of schools and college visits. So that is just a fraction of what's going on, but our departments were hard at work planning over the summer and hitting the ground running with their department initiatives this year. And that is all from curriculum.
Thank you for a thorough update, because I think it's great. I think we talked about this, how maybe we're missing out a little bit, that the curriculum committee there wasn't a subcommittee, but I think this is great because the community can understand what each group is doing, whereas before they really would have no idea what was going on. So just some notes. Dual enrollment, I think it's awesome. We continue to increase that, where your child can start taking college credits. I mean, we're getting better and better with those offerings. So I really appreciate seeing that. Thanks to the HFEE, all the volunteer members there, and the community who supports them and donates, because they're helping to increase the technology in our classrooms, which is phenomenal for the students. The robotics club, that's fantastic that they're hosting their first challenge. I remember last year I'd mentioned, I saw High Tech High post a really, there was a lot of people there. They had a robotics competition at Bell Works, and I felt like that should be home Dell's, home turf to host that. So hopefully that's in the future, but it's great to see that they're going to start this and start it off at Village. The one note I wanted to say now that we're on curriculum and instruction, a couple of things. The science fair, we're gonna look to do that for SATs, right? I think one of the best things we've done at Indian Hill in the last couple of years is start the science fair and get that back off the ground. The response has been phenomenal for that, right? And from what I understand, we're going to start that at SATs. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I just also want to continue to remind curriculum to look into and see how we could introduce the artificial intelligence into our curriculum as much as possible for the students. I know that's something we spoke about after the summer camp that took place here. About 20 something students came. It was a great introduction for them, but I think it was an introduction for us to try to continue to enhance that. So those are the two items that I want to continue to harp on, and the science fair, if we could talk on that, if we are doing that.
Yes, there will be a science fair at the middle school.
Awesome.
That's great. If I may, real quick, just to give another shout out to the HFEE and their amazing donation. They're always really at the forefront of helping our district maintain, new technologies and so on. So really appreciative of that. So I find it necessary to just give them a plug real quick. They're having their varsity night this Friday at the barn on South Holland. I think it'd be a great opportunity for anybody who wants to learn more about the organization or be able to donate to the organization to attend if they like to. It's at 7 p.m. Once again at the barn at South Holland. It's going to be a great night. Always is a great event, and they throw a great party. So I would recommend you look into your tickets if you want to.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Terrence, one question for
Yes.
you. Oh, sorry.
Board member, Board member Tusillo.
I'll be very fast.
Okay.
So on athletics, I never realized that we would actually allow students to bring cell phones to class, to PE class. That baffles me. I mean, it's just as important as any other class per se. So thank you for whoever did that, not bringing cell phones to class. And then I know on our agenda for next week, we'll have approving a volunteer for the pep band. So just a shout out to that person. I don't know the person personally, but those I don't know last time we had a pep band on the field during a game. So I know years ago there was all sorts of band issues and conversations, and it wasn't good. So to see where we've gone to where we are now, thank you to that person and to the band. They did a nice job, and it's pretty cool to see them part of the group. Thanks.
And thank you for bringing that up. It's quite sad to see students walking around a track outside in the fresh air with a nice breeze, getting text neck. Right? So you wonder, like, what are we doing? Yeah. So the whole point of being outside in gym class, talk to your peers, enjoy the fresh air. Instead, and this has been an issue. It's not a new issue. It's an old issue actually, but enjoy the fresh air, communicate with your peers, have some human connection. But text neck is I mean, so thank you. Board member Ready for bringing that up. The cell phones are an absolute disease with this generation, and the data is showing it as well. So thank you for all of that. The only item I had was the quick one that I shared with you. A year or so ago, I was asking about re-engaging in learning script, and I know it's a bandwidth issue, and there's only so much that can be done in a certain amount of time. Give you a couple of examples that I've heard from the mouths of babes, so to speak. They can't read their grandmother's Christmas cards. They can't read the United States Constitution in script. So I don't know what brainiac PhD talked about a new paradigm in education at some point ago, because I haven't even heard when it stopped. So if the idea is for high tech, and briefly, I want to turn over to Dr. Casco, and then we're going to move it to open public comment, because I think we're just ready to go, is if you take tech and the idea of script is obsolescent, well, then how are you signing, how are you doing the DocuSign? Are you doing it in little blocks, and every time there's a contact point, so you get half a T, half a J, right? So if you're on a tablet and you're doing it by hand, it's making it a new electronic connection every single time, and it's stunting even your non-script penmanship. Instead, it dovetails with technology when you can write in script right on that tablet with the technology, with the electronic pens, the Apple Pens and things like that. So, right? So why are we teaching script? And so I think we're starting to look to incorporate, or can you just chat briefly about that? I'm sorry.
I
go
just
ahead.
have one more thing I forgot to add, a very
Oh.
easy thing. I
Oh,
know we love our
sure.
teachers in our district, right? So I had asked Scott last week that I seen in a couple other districts where they have, and Matt, if you wanted to bring it up, they have like, we have a lot of senior people in the district, right? And they did something very nice that I thought was literally, just pull it down a little bit, Matt. Why don't we have these signs in each of the 4 schools? Very simple, recognizing the teachers that have been here a quarter of a century, whatever it is. I'm not sure. I know a few off the top of my head, but I just think it would be, no laughing, Jay. But I just think it would be a nice recognition for those folks that have literally dedicated a quarter of a century of their life or 20 years, whatever it might be. But this is a district in Monmouth County that I saw, and I was like, oh, this could be an easy one. And it's a nice thing to do, saying, hey, thank you for your time here. And, whether we have multiple signs in each school or one or whatever it is, but I just thought thought it was a nice idea and something that wouldn't be bad to copy or steal, or at least suggest to the superintendent administration. Thank you, Matt.
I just want to touch on 3 things. Number 1, that please for SATs in the high school to start planning out that career day for SATs in the high school. I don't want to drop the ball on that. Number 2, with our year 2 of the PBIS rollout, if we can somehow work on, and I will work with you, Mr. Howard, if, need be, but getting a bus and parent component. So, if we're talking about tickets, like let the bus drivers be able to give tickets. Because, like that they can be recognized and perhaps that'll boast some positive behavior. And then my last thing is, I don't know, every year I talk about, can the kids please have access to the Google Calendar on their Chromebook? It drives me crazy. I don't think that it's fair that any child, because I can barely do it, has to toggle between 8 different Google Classrooms to get all of their assignments, because I just want them to have access to the Google Calendar where they can put their stuff in it and it is there all in one spot. So I think that, once again, a school year has started and the kids don't have access to Google Calendar, and it drives me crazy. This is the world we live in. I live off of my calendar on my phone. But they all have one, and it doesn't have to be from their phone. When logged into their Chromebook, we are 1-to-1 in all of the classes. They can get their email. They should have access to Google Classroom. So
And what we
Google
can,
Calendar, thank you.
and what we can do, because our IT professionals are here, perhaps we'll go back to script for a moment. And then if our IT folks, if you want to share a couple comments of the capabilities or different types of programming, give you an opportunity to ponder that, and feel free to take the mic if you like after we finish a brief script conversation, if we can, Dr. Casco.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly if for no other reason, signing your name, right? I mean, we do still sign our names, sometimes on paper, sometimes on tablets. So at absolute bare minimum, I think our kids need to know how to form the script letters of their signature. Yeah, I mean, in terms of why it went to the wayside, really profession wide. And President Wall mentioned the idea of bandwidth. And what he means by that is that there are so many things, so many mandates, so many things that we're charged with teaching kids, like something's got to give. And I think that was something that gave, right? So if we're talking about, that would be taught really in a literacy block, probably in the ELA portion of the day. And so when we talk about, prioritizing literacy skills and teaching kids how to read and write, and of course the expectations being raised and pushed further and further down, right? It's kind of why we don't take naps in kindergarten anymore. Like, for better or for worse, we're not napping in kindergarten anymore. When I was in kindergarten, I didn't like napping, but that's besides the point. We napped, whether we liked it or not. Catholic school, by the way.
You got to be elected to the Board of Ed before you can start napping, right?
That's right. So it is, but that's not to say that we, typically 3rd grade tends to be the age where we do, and we have some teachers that are doing it, but we're looking to become more consistent. There is an expense that comes with it as well, because there is a hard copy resource, that workbooks and cursive workbooks. So there is a budgetary consideration for that. And then there also is, how do we accommodate it in a very, very packed elementary schedule. But it is something that I've spoken to Dr. Arciero about. She's already begun conversations with teachers and building principals about it. So we are looking to advance it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Howard.
I just like to say that I like napping, so.
Well said, well said.
Duly
So,
noted.
Before we open up to the public, and I appreciate everyone's patience, well, actually, hour and a half, not too bad, went through a number of different things. Any other items of new business from the board? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we'd like to now open it up to the public. This is for any items you have, any questions or comments. The mic is yours. Feel free to come up. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Welcome, hi.
My name is Aaliyah Hitchley. I live on 74 Line Road, and I'm here to represent the vocational students. During your transportation segment, you mentioned about how you still have many issues with the transportation, and while I am empathetic, I feel like one issue that's being ignored right now is the transportation of vocational students. During the morning, there is absolutely no way to get to school there unless you decide to walk in the middle of the night. No, not the middle of the night, but like no sunlight, stranger danger, and sidewalks basically don't exist. So there's no way to get to school unless your parent is willing to drive you, which some parents have work in the morning, so yeah. And then in the afternoon, many students are left abandoned or have to wait an hour to get in order to get to the late bus, which is frankly ridiculous. And I think a solution to this would be letting the vocational students use the Indian Hill buses in order to get home, and like adding their stops to the route. That's all.
Thank you very much for your comments. And Ms. Carducci is here, so perhaps our meeting will probably be done in a few minutes. Perhaps you can connect and you can give her that site-specific item and see if that's not something that's being worked on, or there are opportunities if you're able to wait a few minutes. And I apologize. Did you have more? I'm sorry. Okay. Dr. Cascone, did you want to share any comments or reply or refer?
I just would just thank you for coming. I always appreciate when students come up and advocate for themselves. So it is appreciated. And we'll certainly take it under consideration.
Thank you very much for coming. And briefly, did you want to talk, and I'm sorry, I know we're in public comment, we're going to get right back to it. Did you want to briefly talk about the IT standpoint from what Board Member Gisela was referencing? On a mic? I'm sorry, just so.
So I looked at it just real, do you mean Google Calendar, being able to open a Google Calendar? Because that's on for the whole organization.
This, not for the students, like they don't type in it. Like they don't have access to type in it. I've tried.
So,
Go ahead, sorry.
so like you mean create an event for themselves?
Yes.
And it's on, I will look into it further then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if there's some type of improvement, we can just roll it out and communicate it to everyone. So thank you for that. Back to meetings open up to the public for any folks who would like to come up and comments, concerns, questions, criticism. Welcome.
My name is Christy Sargent. I live at 1 Crocus Drive here in town. I actually came here with a different agenda item. However, in hearing some of the comments that came out this evening, I've actually switched to a different role. I wanted to start off by saying, Terrence, I know that you are up for re-election. I think it's really important to point out this evening how disheartened I am about the comment on the transportation issues, which you mentioned earlier. I find your comment as our Board of Ed president to be extremely dismissive to the parents of the town you serve, making the comment about fake book. Myself and another mom run a Homedale Moms group on Facebook that help over 1,000 moms in our community. And to call it fake book because you don't agree with what the town is saying about you and the Board of Ed says that you don't care about parents' opinions. That's the voice of the community you serve, and to dismiss the people you serve is offensive. You showed everyone who is watching and those present tonight that you don't really care about us as a community when we have an issue. You only care about those that agree with you. So anyone who doesn't agree is fake or you dismiss them. How is that a positive character trait for a Board of Ed president? Second thing I want to say is I also don't appreciate your comment about insinuating that because my husband is running for the Board of Ed, that my page would be fake. I never wrote that comment about the mold. Another mother did, nor did I respond, and the other moderator did not either. To call that politically motivated when the moderators of that page haven't even been involved is not fair, and that comment is fake. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Have a great evening. Any other comments from the public? We're still open. If you have any comments, criticisms, we've had a few so far. Thank you. Mic is yours.
Julie Roth at 14 Mayfield
Welcome.
Road. Thank you. And thank you all for your work on behalf of our children and our community.
Thank you.
I am here as a parent of 3 children in 3 different schools. So I have a very comprehensive experience in terms of all 3 tiers of transportation, including the late bus for stats, where I have a student doing sports. So if you will allow me, I would like to give my experience and my family's experience for the past 2 weeks. I am here at the request of my children, who most of you know. I'm very active in the community, and when I go out to a meeting, they're begging me to stay home. My children at the dinner table said, "Mommy, will you please go?" And to quote my 7th grader, "Please tell them our situation." I very much appreciate that the health and well-being of our students was at the center of the decision for the start times. I still feel the high school's too early, but I am concerned about the health and well-being of our stats students because my child, in parent portal, it says that the bus arrives at 7:16. He must be outside 10 minutes prior, which I understand he has to be. The bus is always early. I understand why they're early. They have to get a jump start on the day for their routes, but we're at one end of the street. The bus is coming at the far end. He must leave our house an entire hour before his school starts. If I did not have 2 younger children to get off to school, I would be added to that traffic driving him. But I have 2 siblings, younger siblings to tend to. So I've already seen the negative effects on his health. He's been absent twice already because he's run down. He loves the bus, he wants to ride the bus, but leaving our house a solid hour before his school day starts is excessive. My Indian Hill student, 2nd tier, is the only child we have who is arriving and departing school at the appropriate time, and that is because he's a walker. We walk him. Though I believe the situation there has improved because he is no longer waiting for all of his classmates to arrive, so that's a benefit. But I have been standing outside the school hearing announcements, the buses are not here, the buses are not here. My village student, day 11, she has been late to school every single day. It is not possible for the bus to pick her up at 8:50. She's the 1st or 2nd child on that bus and make it to village in time to start. It would take me that long to drive from my driveway to get her there in start time. We are now having to pick her up regularly, which we've never done in the past, to make it to 5 o'clock activities, which she made it to on time last year with the bus. And it's not about it being an inconvenience to us. It's about we are having to put both hands on deck with my husband's job full time to try to get our children to and from where they need to be because we were relying on the late bus for my son's sports at SATS. When cross country ends at 4 or 5 or 4:15 and it's 5:45 and his bus has not come home yet, my 12-year-old did not have a cell phone. I think it would be a disservice to give him a cell phone. I don't want to give him a cell phone. But when it's an hour and a half since his activities ended and I don't know where he is, that is a problem. So now we have a great village, right? I'm tag teaming with other moms. We're carpooling. He's actually had to take the week off cross country because he's so run down from getting up so early for school. So that is where we are right now. That is our experience. It's not really working for our children or for our family. I don't think I'm alone in this experience. I will say that the transportation department has always been wonderful. Every staff faculty member I've ever met and interacted with, my children with, has been exceptional. So my concerns are threefold. I am concerned for the safety and the welfare of our children. I have seen a car turning and the bus coming like this. Close counters, I've seen it with my eyes. It's not hearsay. Because of our neighborhood's geographic location to village, these buses are having to go very quickly to make it in time to have one bus driver serve all 3 tiers and then come back for the late bus. This is really difficult. So I'm concerned for the health and well-being of our children. I'm concerned for the health and well-being of our bus drivers. I'm worried about bus driver burnout when I know there have been shortages in past years. And I'm concerned for the well-being of our teachers who are exceptional and we're so grateful for. My 2nd grader has the best teacher in the world and she stays there and plays games with them while they wait for the buses. That's not fair to those teachers. I'm concerned about teacher union problems down the road. I know that when we now pick up our daughter, which we have never done in the past, we are having to get there at 3:30 because that is really when the instructional day is ending. It's not ending at 3:40. 3:30, the pickups are dismissed, and then the buses are dismissed at 3:40. And I have text messages on my phone from the transportation department. I don't know where they're originating from. At 3:56, 4 o'clock, the students are now boarding the buses. Why are they boarding the buses 20 minutes after being dismissed and actually 30 minutes after instructional time is ended? I feel like that's excessive. And when my husband was there today to pick up my daughter, he said there's 3 buses there. I was at SATS an hour early before dismissal because I had to bring my child some medication. And many buses are there. They're all there. They're waiting. They're there an hour early. Where are our buses when it's time for Village to be dismissed? So, like I said, I'm here on behalf of our children who asked me to come and just to relay to you the experiences that we're still having 2 weeks into the start of the year.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to turn this over to Dr. Cascone, or perhaps if Ms. Carducci has any thoughts. And also, if you can wait, we'll be done, I think, in a few moments. I'm struck by how the comments, frankly, contrasting with what I just heard a few moments ago, you're here genuinely, and you're sharing issues that you feel passionately about, which is very, very important. That's why we're here. So each modification, I think, as we go along, there've been changes and modifications that are specific to areas of town. There's certain areas that are further away from Village and that kind of thing. And it's always a challenge when you're a later stop. I'm not saying you are, I don't mean that. But when you're a later stop anyway, who's first and who's in the middle and that kind of thing. But can you speak to that? And if you're able to wait around a little bit, because, you know, the team is here. So perhaps you can just get some one-on-one contact to, because you're here on behalf of the children, you're coming out at night, you're busy. So thank you, Dr. Cascone.
Thank you, Mrs. Roth. What I'd like to do is actually clip what you just said and really listen carefully to it. There was a lot there. And if I told you that I processed it all well enough to provide you with a cogent response at 10 to 9, I would not be honest, because I really want to really understand what you're saying there, and also have an opportunity to review it and sit down with transportation and say, okay, like, what is this? Why is this? Can this be improved? I think what we understand is that, that there was let's say a relatively high percentage of people for whom transportation and the arrivals times and the start times were not working in the first week of school. I think the overall percentage of people for whom it's not working has definitely gone down, but there remain families like yours, whether because of, family makeup or whatever the case may be, or location, as President Wall said, where it is really still very difficult for you, right? And just because you may be in a minority doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking, oh, well, the majority of people are happy. Okay, we're moving on. No, it's really important for us to look at some of these tougher situations that our families are facing because of the characteristics of their home or whatever the case may be, and see what we can do to improve them. I want to listen back to what you said. And I know Lara and Paul were probably taking notes as well, and see what we can do to improve your situation, your kid's situation, and anyone who might also fall into a similar type of situation. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for being here. We're still open to the public. Are there any members that would like to share comments, criticisms, baseless political attacks? We're open. We're good. We're open to all of it. So this is your government working, or trying to work as best we can on your behalf. Hearing none. Want to thank you very much for being here. Want to appreciate the board for being here. Do we have any other items for the board? Any other business items? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We do not have executive session. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Appreciate everyone stopping by.